Welcome back. You're still watching DayBreak on this second day of February 2026, and this is DayBreak. In studio, like I told you, I have Aidan Kenan from Eldas constituency. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning, viewers.
It's been a while, sijakuona studio in a long time.
Of course, a lot of activities. We were on holiday.
Yeah.
A long recess.
Yeah.
Then that's the time we have to do so many things, actually, for the conscience, for ourselves, and do also a bit of...
Okay, good to see you. Welcome back to studio. Sheila Lang, not member of parliament, but development economist.
A manifest. It's okay, member of parliament, Migori County.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you, Sam?
I am all right. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Happy New Year. Happy
New Year to you. Quite a bit of time also. I think the last time we were together was in December.
Yes.
And a lot has been going on. We'll have a bit of time to touch about it. Shortly joining us is Gladys Boss, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and Onesmus Ngogoyo, Member of Parliament for Kajiado North. In the papers this morning, a grand cover-up on the Daily Nation and also the grand cover-up on the Standard, only that the differences are clear. That on the Daily Nation, the grand cover-up is about the violent attack on former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua at a church in Othaya. There are still no arrests, and the government has signaled it has no intention of going after the planners of the violence by shifting the investigation from the DCI to IPOA. Officials have narrowed the organized crime to a police misconduct probe, which means the politicians and goons blamed for the chaos have been left off the hook. The story continues on page 4, 5, and 6. Then there's that other story of as President warns against politics in church, President Ruto breaks his silence on violence during church services, warning politicians against retrogressive politics and chaos in places of worship. Then you'll find that the grand cover-up is also the major story that is on the Standard. Police bosses are playing PR games, refusing to name officers caught on CCTV and hiding behind unnamed administrators as brutality keeps repeating. And one of the major stories they're highlighting is what we saw in Nandi Hills, where some young persons were playing pool table and they were beaten by police officers. So we understand that investigations have commenced, so the Standard is taking issue with that. Onesmus Ngogoyo, Member of Parliament for Kajiado North, good morning.
Morning to you.
Good to see you. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And Gladys Boss, the Deputy Speaker, National Assembly. Good morning.
Good morning. And I was here at 6:17. How come you didn't call me? I was waiting in the waiting room.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I didn't know you had arrived. I was actually holding your line. But karibu sana. Now, we saw some bit of developments over the last few days. We'll get to that on what the opposition has been looking into with the visits to the IBC and also the National Police Service. But I want us to begin with what the president promised. He was in Kisumu last week on Friday, and he promised that protest victims would be compensated. We'll be listening to what he said while there to understand, because you recall that in 2024 and 2025, there were protesters that were attacked or killed on the streets of Nairobi and other different parts of the country. At the same time, the KNCHR has consistently given reports, including 60 deaths in July 2024, and a similar number in the year 2025. Now, there was a compensation panel that was constituted by the president, faced hurdles, legal hurdles, and now we're at a situation where it was decided that they can only use information from the KNCHR. Let's listen to what the president said while in Kisumu.
Wale walipoteza maisha yao, wale walipata majeraha, serikali ya Kenya, hii serikali mimi naongoza, tutawalipa fidia. Nyinyi mkae chonjo, hata kama wale walienda kotini, mimi nitahakikisha ya kwamba kila mmoja wenu aliyepoteza maisha yake ama aliyejeruhiwa akipigania mambo ya demokrasia ya taifa letu la Kenya, mambo ya human rights ya taifa letu la Kenya, sisi tutawalipa fidia, kwa sababu nyinyi ni mashujaa wa mambo ya demokrasia ya taifa letu la Kenya.
Mashujaa wa mambo ya demokrasia. Now, as he was saying that, excuse me, several leaders from that region also spoke about it. Watch.
hatutatoka kwa hii serikali yako mpaka dakika ya mwisho. So you have a job to embrace us, to work with us and to shepherd this country. Wiki uliopita chini ya mwenyekiti wa Dr. Oburu Odinga tulipitisha ya kwamba sisi kama ODM tunaenda safari ya Canaan tukipitia Singapore.
Other voices where you find members of parliament like Rosa Boyu calling for compensation of the persons that were killed in previous protests. But here we are. Let me begin with you, Mheshimiwa Ngogoyo, because the government so far has never acknowledged the people that died. The figures released by KNCHR and the figures released by the Interior Ministry are quite different. What do you make of this idea that the president now is promising compensation?
Thank you, Sam. Looking at the videos, the president continues with the deceit that he began with at inception. One was his figures never tallied with the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. Number two, he constituted an illegal committee that has been struck off by the court. And what he's talking about is actually a lie. The court recognized the Kenya National Human Rights Commission as the only institution that could deal or will deal with the issues of compensation. And remember, the issues of compensation are not, this is not what President Ruto wanted. This was a cry that the Gen Zs raised, and then it came up as an issue. The late Raila Odinga brought it up as one of the issues in his Agenda 10 issues with the president. Mm-hmm. So this was not what President Ruto wanted. From inception, his figures never tallied with the only institution in Kenya that is authentic to declare that these are the people that we found are dead. These are the people that we believe were hurt during the protest. And up to date, like you said it very well, their figures and the figures from the then PS Somolo were not the same. When he says that people went to court, people did not go to court. Government constituted an illegal committee. It has been struck by the court. The delay in processing their payment has been facilitated by government, because if they have the funds, they should have channeled them through the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. And that is what the court said. Mm-hmm. So there is nothing, it is just a dishonest president, and a lot of sycophancy, of course, from the members of parliament from that region, and a lot of praise and worship. Of course, now they've joined my colleagues here to sing the song of William Ruto, even when it is on a sacred issue as death, mm-hmm. Where you'd have expected they would come with a lot of hue, and especially Kisumu was highly affected. Yep. In the first protest, in the finance bill protest, and along the way, people have died in Kisumu. I would have expected, people like Jared Okello to be better than that. But, what do you expect from people who are now with William Ruto?
No, give it to them. There are some members of parliament that were in the entourage, and they actually spoke about the issue that they want protest victims.
I think it was only Buyu.
Yeah.
And you can tell Buyu where it's coming from. She was affected. If you remember, mm-hmm. there was even something they were talking about, a massacre in her constituency. Mm. So she was highly affected by that issue. Of course, the real people have not recovered. The leaders pretend that now they support William Ruto. But of course, the man with the last word would be the public.
Mheshimiwa Kenan, what are your thoughts around this issue?
I think we must face the facts. It is true that there were individuals who were affected as a result of the protests that took place. That is not deniable. It's also true that historically, if you go back to the history of this country, there were many other Kenyans who were affected in the past. And this historical injustice actually are documented. We have had the Wagala massacre, the Melka Mary massacre, the Bolakartasi massacre in Garissa. And you are even aware, I don't know whether you're aware, there's a law called the Indemnity Act. Indemnity Act that was passed, I think, sometime in the 70s, just to indemnify, to protect the soldiers against all the atrocities that they committed in northern Kenya. Just to say, as long as you have killed somebody in northern Kenya, you cannot be taken to court. But that is part of the history. Let's come back to this, compensation to this. There's a committee. For us, we are mixing too many things. Yeah. Too many things. You can have your hatred for the president. My brother here has dismissed all of us. He has cast aspersion what the president had said. He has ravished all the members of parliament in Nyanza. Mm-hmm. He has also even dismissed those of us who are seated here as, that is not the way. I think we need just to understand the politics. And civility requires that you respect also the views of other people. All of us cannot be in the same pot to sing one political philosophy. No, that is why we have a democratic space.
Sure.
So what I will be glad to see, and the president is an institution. You may disagree with him, but it's an institution, a unifying institution. That is the presidency. Tomorrow, whoever my friend is trying to assist, if he becomes the president, the rule must also apply. So what you are doing right now must also apply to the person that you are pushing to clinch the office that you think is very important. Coming back to this, the president constituted a committee.
Yeah.
And now we have separation of institutional role. The court made a decision. But that is not the end of the government. We have Kenya National Human Rights Commission. We have Office of the President, and we have many other commissions. We have this called Ombudsman. We also have the Police Oversight Authority. There are many other agencies. Of course, there are overlapping, constitutional issues, which I think can easily be addressed. So now that the promise has been made, what we expect the president and the government to do is to honor that commitment and assist those Kenyans who have been affected. As to the numbers, they are the political numbers and the real numbers. The real numbers can come from the Ministry of Health. The real numbers, because you cannot hide. If somebody has died, somebody has died. You know, there has to be a death certificate, there has to be an OP, there has to be a police report, there has to be a report from the mortuary. It's not something that somebody can just dismiss. But whereas you want to determine, we are mixing politics. Let's not play politics with the lives of those innocent Kenyans who have been affected by this, either directly or indirectly.
In your assessment, who is playing politics?
You see, they're asking the government to compensate. Somebody has also gone to court to say don't compensate. As long as the desire...
No, the matter in court was not about don't compensate. It was saying that the compensation panel published or gazetted by the president was unconstitutional.
Agreed.
The courts agreed.
The end result was this.
Yeah.
The end result was this. Compensate the victims. Okay? And we have become too litigious society. Everybody goes to... You can say, like now, 2 days ago, somebody went to court to say, don't recruit teachers in Northern Kenya. You can just imagine, was that person crazy? And the court issued a conservatory order. Just say, don't recruit teachers in Wajir, Mandera, Garissa. And I can share with you the order. So, meaning people have decided to do all sorts of things. What do you expect the child in Northern Kenya to do? But that's a debate for another day. For purpose of this, I want to urge the president and the government to live by this, compensate as you promised. But also don't limit it to this. Compensate the victims of other historical injustices like Wagala and this. That is the only way we can have a society where the rule of law applies and there is also equity and fairness, where the person in Northern Kenya enjoys the same right as the person in Kondele, the person in Eldoret, the person in Kajiado. That is the way we can have the face of the Republic of Kenya. There is no individual who is more important than another individual. So that is the reality. Okay. Compensate them and also take care of what we as people of Northern Kenya, we have raised. We said, we appreciate this. It's a good step. It's a bold step. Can you also expand the mandate and include those who have been massacred since independence by the successive regimes because of their ethnic background, because of where they have lived, because of the political philosophies that they held at that particular time.
Okay, all right. Mheshimiwa Deputy Speaker, what are your thoughts? And because it looks like we are all now in agreement that indeed the people that were killed, it was unfair because that was extrajudicial. How then do you move to the next phase to compensate their families and the people that were injured?
I think we need to move to a phase in the country where we think logically and try to go to a problem-solving stage as opposed to competing. Because you'll see that people demanded for compensation. The president acceded to it and agreed that there should be compensation. But of course, there are those detractors who don't want the president to do something good. So of course, they will always sponsor cases to court to try and trash it. But if you look at it, I think what the court said, there's nothing wrong with it, that it should look at the figures, the official figures are from the National Human Rights Commission. But in order to decide how much compensation should be paid to each different person, because not a one-size-fits-all, then you need a committee that is a multi-agency committee. You will have those, just the way that in insurance cases, the loss of an arm or the loss of your land or the loss of your house has a different value. So you need a committee that is able to sit now to crunch the numbers. And that's what that committee was supposed to achieve. So if anybody honestly loved Kenya and wanted to make sure that people are compensated, they should allow the committee, because if the committee's decision at the end on who should be compensated to what extent could still be challenged in court in terms of the amounts. So we should have let that go its full role. But this is not the first time that this has happened in Kenya. If you remember, in, I think, 2015, immediately after President Uhuru became president, in his State of the Nation address in Parliament, he also pledged to compensate people for historical injustices. And in fact, as soon as I came to Parliament in 2017, one of the first things I did was sponsor the Kenya Reparations Bill, which was to come up with a formula and regulations to compensate Kenyans who had suffered in 2007, who had been displaced in 1992, and who had lost their land, and so on. But even then, that has gone through challenges, because the issue was there has to be an agreement on the amounts, because the Kenyan purse is not, doesn't run to infinity. And there needs to be a smaller group. And I remember when the last time expired was because we hadn't reached an agreement, because it's a money bill. So this has been a challenge. And until we agree as Kenyans that this, as at least it's been agreed in principle, let's agree on the figures, then that's the only way that we should be able to move forward.
So at the moment, we don't have any law that would guide that process? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we don't have a law.
And will the Makau Mutua team come up with a law, or Parliament there's something?
No, I think what needs to happen first is that we need to agree on what are the amounts to be paid. Okay. Then now, if you go into regulations or you want to go into a law, it can be set.
So who will decide that? Is it KNCHR? Is it the President's panel?
The Human Rights Commission will investigate human rights abuses and where people do need compensation, but they don't reach the stage of actual figures. Even if they were to do it, they would have to co-opt something similar to the same committee to reach those figures. Like we said, this is something new. It has not happened. It has happened before. And so we have to work through, it's a new solution. But every time we're about to reach a solution, then someone goes to court and then it aborts.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, for you, Sheila, I don't know what your thoughts are about what has just transpired, but at the same time, one may feel that when these people are being killed, it was under whose command?
Absolutely, Sam.
And now the president will come and say that we are going to do the following. I mean, how do we learn from this so that in future we don't have a government going to attack its own, later on to promise compensation?
Absolutely. I think from the discussion on the table, there's two things I'm getting. I think it becomes very clear. I'm maybe the non-member of parliament in 2024 who was on the streets being tear-gassed and hurt. It becomes very, very clear. If you told me that there was a price that you wanted to pay me for the amount of tear gas and the scars that I have, I'm not sure exactly what figure I would put in there. The one thing I've learned today, at least from the president's pronouncement in Kisumu, which I was happy about, is that we transitioned from being criminals to shujas. So at least that's positive. So I can look at myself as a shuja now, fighting for democracy. I have now been upgraded from criminal to shuja. So let's clap for that. And then the second bit is, I think we're jumping 10 steps ahead and not going through the process. It's a very scary experience, actually, what happened. And what I would like to see is not just jump to the end and say we're going to write a check. Where is the justice? Is there admission of guilt? We have laws in the country. Who did what? I think that's the part that for me I struggle with.
That's why it's called reparations.
Yeah. So that's the part I struggle with, to have an open and transparent process. And so because some of them, BBC did a documentary, we know exactly it is this person who, is accused of having done that. When you say you'll write a check at the end, how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again? Because I
it's
think
not just a check, it's reparations.
Just 1 second. Just let me finish my submission. Because the process is, if you just write a check at the end of the process without, having a proper holistic justice process, then how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again? First of all, we have to acknowledge that there is no price on human life. That's just basic. There is no price on human life. And there's a certain fear that we cannot underestimate in this country. about what was witnessed in many other places, even in northern Kenya. There's fear. You're talking about past injustices. I think even a few days ago, there was a protest that was going on about citizens who are complaining that they're being targeted, young people are being targeted in northern Kenya by authorities. So I think this is something that we can see in that if we don't have a system of ensuring that this is proactively dealt with instead of after the fact. So that is the part that is missing for me. The compensation for me comes that's now the tail end of it. However, holistically, how do we make sure that Albert Ojwang is not picked out of eating his lunch and then he doesn't show up, or he shows up dead the next day in a police station in Nairobi? How do we ensure that, citizens who are unarmed, marching, going to the streets are not shot and killed? Rex, a lot of children that we lost. How do we ensure that that doesn't happen again? I think that's part of the conversation that I'm missing, right? And so if we don't focus on that and we're just quick to say, fine, we'll write a check, I find that to be very problematic.
All right. Mheshimiwa Kena, you have any thoughts about that? Because like she's saying here, Rex Masai, the police suspected to have been involved, they're denying it. It's actually an inquest as we speak, because the DPP could not process that until there's establishment of facts. So many other cases. IPO has been investigating, submitted some files to the DPP. DPP sent them back for further investigation. So that issue is still mysterious. But then the government comes and says we're going to compensate. How do we bring to book the perpetrators?
I think there's something that she has pointed out correctly. The whole thing is a process. First of all, you have to identify it's a process. The process that begins, maybe somebody has protested, someone lost his life or her life. That has been documented either at the mortuary, at the police, or somewhere else, or by the families.
Yep.
And that's why there's a committee. The work of that committee now is to apply the due process. Ultimately, I don't think whether it's the issue of just paying, issuing a check. That due process must also identify what has happened and point out criminal responsibility. There are particular individuals, and all of us are subject to the rule of law. If there are particular individuals who have decided to use the law as they wish, certainly that is not what the framers of the current constitution actually envisage. So I think what we are mixing, and the whole environment actually is conflicted. There is politics, there is personal interest, there are so many things. I think let's allow the victims. I agree 100% with the president has said. He is the executive, he's the CEO of the Republic of Kenya. And what he has committed is he's going to compensate. That compensate is not just issuing checks. It's a process. That process now will start from the work of the committee. So let's allow this. I'm sure there are individuals who are trying to scuttle the process so that at the end of the day, the president appears to be a liar. No, that's not what we want. The victims require attention. That attention must come from
the president is not the victim here, Mheshimiwa Kena.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I said, allow me to complete this. It's a process.
Yeah.
He has made a commitment. And by the way, in law, and I'll be guided by her, where there's a lacuna, among the sources of many sources of law, from the Constitution to Acts of Parliament to precedents and many other things, where there's a lacuna, presidential pronouncements actually constitute a source of law. So what he has said yesterday or 2 days ago carries the weight of law. So let's wait for this process to be completed. And now that...
sorry, what he said carries the weight of law? I don't think so.
It carries the weight of law. You need to understand our constitutional aspects. I said our first source of law is the Constitution. The second source of law is Act of Parliament. And there are many others, up to presidential degree. What he has said...
It must be in writing, I thought so.
I said, what he said, presidential pronouncement, as to whether that was in writing or not, will be, will be for a different day. I said, where there's a lacuna in law, where there is no any other reference, what the president says actually constitutes a sort of law. You can challenge me on that.
Which constitution are you reading to say that?
The current constitution.
That? Which section? Which article?
No, I said, the constitution has both direct and indirect reference.
That's what I'm saying.
Where I said where there's a lacuna. Let's not debate on this. You can check
understand my question, Mheshimiwa Kena. The president says a lot of things. Unless they are converted into what is written and under the seal of the Republic of Kenya, they cannot take any effect.
Agreed. I said what the president says, whether it's in writing, and I'm sure it has to be put in writing. I said where there is no any other law applicable. Whether there is no any other law applicable. And you can find in all jurisdictions, even in America, in UK, everywhere else. Let's leave that for another day. For purpose of this, we have the victims. Let's respect them. Let's identify them. or let those who are concerned, the institutions concerned, identify and undertake the due process. That committee's work will ultimately culminate in the issues of compensation. As she has rightly put it, that compensation may not be enough for the emotional challenges that they have gone through, both the victims and the families. So I think let's not mix politics with that particular event. Let's allow it. I also want to appeal to the president and the government. You remember what Uhuru did in that infamous presidential parliamentary address? That has never been applied. That has never been implemented. So we people, as a person who represents the people of Wagala, as a person who has had brothers and sisters who have lost their lives, we expect that to be implemented because we do not have different governments. The governments act in perpetuity. This is the same government. So what we expect the president to do as they compensate these individuals who have lost their lives in this violent protest, the same pronouncement made by President Uhuru must also be actualized. And that is the only way we can have an equitable, fair society that all believe in the rule of law. And that is a society that we expect. Otherwise, the assumption that we'll be getting is if a person from one part of Kenya is affected and is treated differently, and I'm treated differently, then we'll not have a society that believes in the same rule of law. So, and that is the thing that we expect the members of the Fourth Estate and any other person to push for, not just selectively dealing with what has happened to one particular group of Kenyans.
All right. Thank you so much. And I need us to take a short break. I was just trying to locate the Gazette notice that recently republished the establishment of that compensation panel, but also to a great extent limiting its mandate to advisory role to the president. So the panel led by Makau Mutua will advise the president on what to do based on recommendations of the KNCHR. So they don't have a lot of leeway in whatever they do. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we turn into politics and what the opposition has been up to the past few days. Like I told you, last week they visited the IBC. They also visited the National Police Service, talking about different things in readiness for 2027. We're back in a moment.